This is Brother Medina for Tuesday, Seventh-day Adventist, and please let us start with a word of prayer. Loving Father, please help us to explain and to present these important facts to people clear and plain, that your name may be glorified. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. Well, today our study is Gardasil Danger. Gardasil Danger. And we want to talk to you about the current drive by the Ministry of Health in this country to inoculate young girls with Gardasil to deal with what is called the human papilloma virus. To get rid of the HPV, the human papilloma virus, we are told that it is necessary to inoculate them with this vaccine called Gardasil. But there have been terrible concerns raised about Gardasil. And not only that, the facts are that the Gardasil itself is not able to really deal with HPV as is touted in the media. We want to show you all of these facts. We want to present you video evidence of how dangerous it has been to use Gardasil on young children. In a school where the children are attending, the Ministry of Health selected a certain amount of schools for inoculation with Gardasil upon young girls. The facts are, who is responsible if one of those girls were to develop a terrible life-threatening sickness? If they were to get a life-debilitating sickness, who were to be responsible? The school, the government, Merck that produced the vaccine? Well, my dear people, first of all, as parents, you have the right to know the adverse effects caused by Gardasil. You have also the right to know what research has revealed about Gardasil. Truly, Merck's research has presented Gardasil in a very good light. But when you investigate the documents that Merck themselves had with regard to Gardasil, when you investigate the Food and Drug Administration's reports in the United States of America, when you investigate the National Institute of Health in the United States, their reports, when you investigate the National Cancer Institute's records, you would see that there are terribly questionable problems with Gardasil. And your child being injected with Gardasil could be in serious danger. Now here is the theory we have been told, that sexual intercourse can cause a girl to be infected with the HPV bacteria or virus. In other words, if a girl has sexual intercourse with a man, from that man she can get HPV, the human papilloma virus. This virus, we are told, causes cervical cancer. This is what we have been told. However, there are more than 100 types of HPV. Yes, my dear people. Gardasil is only carded to deal with 4 types. Not only that, we are told that HPV is a virus that affects older women 40 and over. It is only when you become 40 years and over that you are in danger of getting cervical cancer from the HPV. Now, however, why then therefore inoculate 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13, 14? Cervical cancer is not a problem with them now. The HPV, that virus, is not a problem with them until they get it, presumably if they get it in sexual intercourse. But we see there's a whole lot of problems in this whole thing, and we want the experts to give you a clearer understanding than we can. For this reason, we have various clips that we want to show you. In this first clip here, you will see questions about Gardasil that has been raised in the media in America and in other countries. Pay attention to this.
I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, new questions about the safety of Gardasil. That's the cervical cancer vaccine given to millions of girls, but is it actually putting their health at risk? Story tonight, there are questions being asked about the vaccine known as Gardasil. About 8 million American girls have gotten the vaccine, which prevents cervical cancer. But is it safe? Here's Cheryl Atkinson.
The hope is that Gardasil will prove to be a lifesaver, preventing deadly cervical cancer. But today, Merck's HPV vaccine is dealing with a growing number of reports of serious side effects. Jamie Venus passed out and had a seizure after her Gardasil shot.
After my seizure, I remember I didn't want to go to bed because I thought that I wasn't going to be able to wake up.
She was lucky compared to Amanda Ratner. She came down with an illness so excruciating she had to take morphine. Her parents, both doctors, blame Gardasil.
She's gone from the position of being a competitive varsity lacrosse player in high school to somebody who's chronically ill.
Gardasil was approved in 2006 for girls as young as age 9. The conservative-funded public interest group Judicial Watch has obtained more than 8,000 adverse events reports under Freedom of Information law. The reports reveal everything from massive wart outbreaks to seizures and paralysis. Of 18 deaths, nearly a quarter cited blood clots. Jessica Vega got the shot at school when she was 13. Soon after, she was paralyzed. It took a year of braces and treatment to get her on her feet. Brittany Bell was 12. She collapsed with brain inflammation and paralysis. 14-year-old Jenny developed life-threatening paralysis that's resistant to treatment. Merck and the CDC say Gardasil is safe and effective, and that they've not found a link to any deaths. They also say illnesses reported after vaccinations may not have been caused by the shot, and that Gardasil appears safer than most vaccines, with half the average reported serious adverse events. The CDC says it will continue to evaluate the data, while some families are evaluating whether their loved ones should have the vaccine at all. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Washington. Swank was a straight-A student and cheerleader. That's her near the center. But that was before she became very ill. Gardasil. Following the standard dose of 3 Gardasil vaccinations.
We're like, we're going to go get it because we felt like almost pressured by the commercials.
Gabby got sicker after each shot, progressing to seizures, strokes, and heart problems. It was her neurologist who suspected Gardasil was to blame.
I think that there are too many people having serious long-term side effects.
Last fall, the government concluded there's no link between Gardasil and serious adverse events like Gabby's, but a new analysis calls that finding into question. The National Vaccine Information Center, a private vaccine safety group, compared Gardasil adverse events to another vaccine, one also given to young people but for meningitis. Gardasil had triple the number of ER visits, 5,000. Reports of side effects were up to 30 times higher.
We would never have gotten the shot, and she'd be here to hug.
Emily Tarcell's daughter, Chris, died 3 weeks after her third Gardasil shot, one of 29 fatalities reported in 2 years.
Now we know from this report that there are more reactions and deaths associated with Gardasil than with another vaccine given in the same age group. It's irresponsible not to take action.
Merck, the FDA, and CDC question the value of the new analysis, say they continue to review the data, Gardasil remains safe and effective, and its benefits outweigh the risks. Those who believe the vaccine hurt them aren't convinced. Gabby isn't cheering anymore and is too sick to even attend school.
I struggle with guilt a lot because I made the choice to get the shot for her.
Meantime, Merck has asked the FDA to approve Gardasil for boys who can pass on the cancer-causing virus to girls, meaning the number of people getting Gardasil may double.
Yes, my dear people, have you seen how horrible this is? Why didn't they tell you these facts, that so many deaths, so many life-debilitating sicknesses has come out of inoculating young girls with Gardasil? Many of them have died and suffered so much terrible side effects from injection with Gardasil. And this hasn't been told to us by the media. We now have to search and find out. But what we want you to look at here in this next clip is a clear presentation of the HPV, the virus that's supposed to cause cervical cancer. And we also want you to look at the facts about the use of Gardasil upon these children. So pay careful attention to this clip that you're going to see now.
She's just 16, the intelligent, lively, pretty girl from Kansas who was a high school gymnast and cheerleader and got straight A's until in 2008, 3 Gardasil shots changed her life and she became one more Gardasil reaction statistic. This is Gabrielle before she got Gardasil vaccine. And here she is today, back in the hospital again, diagnosed with inflammation in the brain and body. The brain seizures won't stop. She's had strokes. The right side of her body is weakened. She's in almost constant pain. Gabi has now developed lupus. Her doctor says she could die. My name is Barbara Lowe Fisher. I'm the mother of a son injured by a vaccine in 1980, and this is a vaccine commentary brought to you by the National Vaccine Information Center. Today I want to talk about HPV and Gardasil vaccine, because Gardasil vaccine was fast-tracked to licensure by the Food and Drug Administration in 2006. It contains genetically engineered virus-like protein particles and aluminum, which affect immune function. It's a vaccine that by the summer of 2009 already caused more than 15,000 reports of adverse events, including more than 3,000 injuries and 48 deaths. 14 of the girls who died after getting Gardasil were under age 16, just like Gabrielle. At the National Vaccine Information Center, we issued our first press release in the summer of 2006, warning parents that Gardasil had not been adequately tested in young girls before government health officials recommended all 11 and 12-year-old girls get 3 doses of the vaccine. Merck only studied Gardasil in fewer than 1,200 girls under age 16 and followed them up for about 2 years before lobbyists tried unsuccessfully in 2007 to get the vaccine mandated for all 6th grade girls in every state. That's right. Gardasil was only tested on about 1,000 young girls before doctors were told to give millions of little girls 3 doses of the vaccine at an average cost of $165 per dose. Now Merck is asking the FDA to license Gardasil for young boys, an action that will expand Merck's market by tens of millions of dollars. In 2008, the global sales from Gardasil topped $2 billion. But what is Gardasil vaccine supposed to protect our children against? It's supposed to prevent a sexually transmitted virus called HPV. Most people who have been sexually active have been exposed to HPV and clear the virus from their bodies within 2 years without any problems and are left with permanent lifelong immunity. The small minority of women who do not clear the HPV virus can develop cervical cancer and die if they do not get regular Pap tests and immediate treatment of precancerous cervical lesions. After routine Pap tests became a standard part of health care for American women in the 1960s, deaths from cervical cancer dropped by more than 70%. In fact, cervical cancer represents less than 2% of all cancers diagnosed in the U.S. every year and is not among the top 10 causes of cancer deaths in American women today. Plus, Merck, government officials, and doctors do not know how long 3 shots of Gardasil will protect against HPV infection. The vaccine only contains several of the many HPV strains associated with cervical cancer and hasn't been on the market long enough to know how well it works. In fact, girls are still supposed to get Pap tests even if they've been vaccinated, because nobody really knows if Gardasil will prevent HPV infection for a long time without booster shots. So here's the bottom line. Gardasil vaccine is supposed to prevent a sexually transmitted infection that is naturally cleared from the body within 2 years by the vast majority of people. Getting regular Pap tests can help prevent almost all cases of cervical cancer and death. Treating Gabrielle's serious Gardasil vaccine injury has cost her family and insurance company tens of thousands of dollars. How many more Gabrielles are out there? We don't know, even though there have been hundreds of similar Gardasil reaction reports from doctors and parents in the U.S. and other countries like Spain and Australia. Fewer than 10%, perhaps only 1%, of all serious health problems following vaccination are ever reported to U.S. federal health agencies. This means that instead of the more than 15,000 bad health outcomes following Gardasil vaccination that have already been reported, actually there could have been between 150,000 and 1.5 million adverse health events after Gardasil which have never been counted. Why? Because many doctors write off Gardasil-related hospitalizations, injuries, and deaths as just a coincidence and do not report. Officials at the CDC and FDA have dismissed what happened to Gabrielle after she got her Gardasil shots as a coincidence. Recently, the government has admitted that Gardasil can cause sudden fainting. Girls can lose consciousness within minutes or hours after the shot, and some girls have suddenly fainted while they're driving their cars and had accidents, which makes it dangerous for girls to drive alone to and from the doctor's office. But CDC officials have told the American public that all of the other more serious health problems that have developed after Gardasil shots, including seizure disorders, paralysis, brain inflammation, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, heart attacks, blood clots, strokes, and deaths in young women and girls are just a coincidence. All of them. How unscientific, illogical, and irresponsible. We expect a lot more from doctors in charge of making sure vaccines are safe. What if all of the heart attacks and deaths associated with Vioxx had been allowed to be written off as a coincidence after that dangerous drug had been on the market for years? Every pharmaceutical product, including every vaccine, carries a risk of injury or death, and that risk can be greater for some than others. At the not-for-profit National Vaccine Information Center, we've been operating a vaccine reaction registry for nearly 3 decades. And the most tragic cases of vaccine injury we see are when doctors revaccinate babies, children, and teenagers, and adults over and over again and ignore the fact that symptoms are getting worse and worse after each dose of vaccine. It is so important to know how to recognize Gardasil vaccine reaction symptoms like fainting, seizures, numbness and tingling, pain and weakness in different parts of the body, hair loss, rashes, extreme fatigue, and other symptoms. It's important to understand whether you or your child are at high risk for having a vaccine reaction. If you or a loved one has suffered a health problem after a Gardasil shot or another vaccine, go to www.nvic.org and file a report. We won't dismiss your report as just a coincidence. We will treat it seriously and with the respect it deserves. On our website, you can learn more. You can sign the Investigate Gardasil Risks Now petition, and you can register for the 4th International Public Conference on Vaccination being held this October 2 through 4, 2009 in Washington, D.C., where you will learn from vaccine experts and network with other families in your state. Empower yourself with information and take action now so we can stop girls like Gabrielle from becoming one more vaccine reaction statistic. Thank you.
I have in my hand here various documents that clearly reveal the problem with Gardasil to inoculate young girls to deal with the HPV. Document number 1, it tells us controversial HPV vaccine causing 1 death per month. FDA report. The Food and Drug Administration's report shows this. Reports that they have received. A next one here, another document by Dr. McCullough. New evidence demolishes claims of safety and effectiveness of HPV vaccine. So new evidence has shown that, and this is a 2012 document. The first one was 2008, and it was in 2006 that the FDA in America allowed Gardasil to be used to inoculate people. And you must remember this important thing, that when they allowed Gardasil to be used, it was a fast-track system. There was no evidence that Gardasil works to really deal with HPV. In fact, evidence has emerged that Gardasil does not deal with the HPV, with the virus itself. It does not get rid of the virus. It does not cure cervical cancer. There is not one evidence, one piece of research anywhere that this happens. However, we do know that the drug corporations, especially Merck, will make billions by the use of Gardasil. Here is another document we have here. Vaccine studies under the influence of pharma. This document shows that many of the research that have been done by the pharmaceutical corporations are dubious. Let me just read one little statement from this document here for you. Listen to this statement. In this statement here is what we are told. Dr. Ioannidis did it again just last year, showing that much of scientific research being published is highly questionable. Again, but Dr. Ioannidis' study of 49 papers in leading journals, which have been cited by more than 1,000 other scientists, in other words, well-regarded data, showed that within only a few years, almost a third of the papers have been refuted by other studies. So when they tell you, well, research has been done, this drug is safe, it has been proven to be so, these doctors are merely trusting in the words of Merck's research. But they are no independent research. And in fact, much of those research is highly questionable. We have documents that showed that the research done by this corporation put in a solution, a placebo solution that had aluminum, a placebo solution that had salt, and the use of the Gardasil also in test. They were not supposed to use the placebo solution with aluminum. It was just supposed to be the Gardasil test and a placebo solution with salt, a saline solution. Why did they put in the one with the aluminum? We are told in many of those documents it confuses the results that comes out, so that you can maneuver between different results from the Gardasil to the placebo solution with the aluminum to the saline solution, the placebo solution with the salt. Yes, my dear people. And so the whole research has been dubious. A lot of documents exposing it. So we want you to look at the next clip showing you some very important facts about Gardasil. Pay attention.
But all these hundreds of thousands of young girls that got it will be probably infertile, but in 90% they will have cancer along the way. And we have girls that dropped with a needle still in them. We have thousands of girls that died from it. We have thousands of girls that have permanent neurological conditions and diseases from the HPV, from the Gardasil vaccine, even if the producers, of course, say it's not related. It happened directly afterwards to a healthy child, but there's no correlation, of course. And so when you start vaccinating, first of all, with the vaccine, you have all these toxic elements that are in the vaccines. And you get all these cancer-causing elements, including mercury, which is the main cause for all these brain tumors out there, because quicksilver, mercury, aluminum is the only element that crosses the blood-brain barrier without a problem.
Yes, my dear people, you have seen, you have heard for yourself. You need to talk to the Ministry of Health and tell them to stop vaccinating children in school until proper investigation has been done with regards to this Gardasil. In fact, India recalled their Gardasil. They have stopped inoculating girls in India. New Zealand recalled their own. Australia recalled their own. In Spain stopped inoculating. In France, you cannot use Gardasil. It is banned. And its sister drug, Cervarix is also banned. Yet, in Trinidad and Tobago, the Ministry of Health is seeking to inoculate children with this. We call upon you to ask your minister to stop it. Also, do your personal research and explain these things to your children and to people concerned before some terrible thing happens to your child. And then one set of suing and money has to be paid for all of these things. Now, we said these things as a public service to you because you need to be warned, and because it is important for you to know. You have the right to know. This was never meant to cast aspersion on anyone, but to just show you facts, to make you do your research and find out before something happens. So pay attention to what you have seen, and we are going to talk about this issue in our next program also. So, if you want this program, call us at 625-0446. 625-0446, and we would send this program for you with other programs that we have also had before with Gardasil on radio. And what you are seeing passing here before you are our web addresses. All you have to do is to tap into these various web addresses, and you will get religious programs, literature, and television programs all put there for your blessing. And may God bless you until we meet again in Jesus' holy name. Amen.